Words of encouragement for Hong Kong disciplinary forces. The CE responds to criticism from opponents. And a senior Beijing official fired for disciplinary violations.
Good evening. National People's Congress Chairman Zhang Dejiang had words of encouragement for Hong Kong's disciplinary forces during a high-profile meeting with members of the Security Bureau today. He also reiterated Beijing's full support for Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying, saying he'd been working hard to resolve the city's difficulties. Zhang Dejiang met the team of Hong Kong delegates led by Secretary for Security Lai Tong-kwok at the Great Hall of the People this morning. Also present was the Director of the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office, Wang Guangya, and Director of Beijing's Liaison Office in Hong Kong, Zhang Xiaoming. In the hour or so meeting, Zhang said the SAR's stability and prosperity has been hard-earned over the 16 years after its handover back to China. He said under the leadership of Leung Chun-ying, the government has been working hard in resolving the current economic difficulties in the city while planning ahead with long-term strategies. He reiterated the central government's firm support for Leung and his government and acknowledged all the contributions they've made. Zhang also praised the SAR's disciplinary forces, saying they form a salient part of the government in upholding the one country, two system principle and the basic law, as well as in serving the community. He called the law enforcement agencies highly professional with excellent performance. It's the first time a Security Bureau's duty visit to Beijing has been open to the press in such a high-profile manner. The security chief said Zhang's words are in recognition of the civil service team's hard work. Executive Councillor Regina Ip, who used to head the Security Bureau, called the affirmative message a pioneering move from Beijing. She said perhaps Beijing has seen the pressure frontline officers have been facing over the last few years, especially with rising social dissent, so decided to give them some encouragement. Beijing's vocal support for Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying still has not made life easier for him. Today, one of his first jobs after returning from his holiday was to respond to renewed calls for him to step down, as well as advice on listening to the people from a beauty queen. Some 300 people have jointly taken out an ad in Hong Kong and Taiwan newspapers criticizing the chief executive's city planning policies, complaining that the authorities don't give priority to the SAR's interests. Speaking before the weekly Executive Council meeting, Leung responded by listing out the things he has done since he took office last year. He said he had put forth policies to stop mainland mothers from giving birth here and stop non-Shenzhen permanent residents from getting multi-entry permits to visit Hong Kong, as well as to limit certain housing developments to local homebuyers only. He also said his critics' decision to place an ad in a Taiwan newspaper has confused both Hong Kong and Taiwan people. Those who posted the ad explained their decision.
We want to send a strong message to Taiwanese government, especially Taiwanese people. We want to emphasize that today's mainlandizations of Hong Kong will be tomorrow mainlandizations of Taiwan.
A Green Group representative insisted it's not a discriminatory move.
We are just saying about the population policy and the immigration policy. And so it's not a matter of discrimination. We just care about the carrying capacity of Hong Kong, and we also care the environment of Hong Kong.
Meanwhile, comments on political reform by the new Miss Hong Kong, who won on Sunday with 170,000 popular votes in support of her, have also hit the headlines. Grace Chan said in an interview after a victory that now's the right time to communicate with people. She suggested that the government should listen more to suggestions on universal suffrage. In response, Leung said he also supports universal suffrage and that he's very willing to bring the SAR a system of democratically electing the chief executive within his term in office.
In other local news now, and the Long-Term Housing Strategy Steering Committee has put forward a set of proposals to meet Hong Kong's housing needs. Among the ideas, increase the supply of home ownership scheme flats and license subdivided flats in residential buildings. Vicky Kong has the story.
Building consensus, building homes is the theme of the steering committee's consultation document. It's subject to public consultation between today and December 2nd. The committee has identified housing shortage, high rents and poor living conditions as the main reasons hindering quality living in Hong Kong. It's proposed the elimination of subdivided flats in factory buildings, but is in favor of licensing subdivided units in residential buildings provided that they satisfy fire and building safety regulations.
If you get rid of industrial subdivided units, if you have a licensing system in order to safeguard hygiene conditions, safety conditions, this might increase the cost of landlords, and they might increase rent. So there is a kind of dilemma there.
The committee also proposed that 470,000 more housing units be made available over 10 years. The committee believes 60% of those units should be public housing and 40% should be built by the private sector. At present, the figures are 44% and 56% respectively. But the housing chief emphasized that low-income families and the elderly are at the top of the government's priority list, not youngsters.
It seems a bit rather unfair for graduates since most of them, when they finish universities or their studies, they won't be able to look for a place to move in or a place to settle down.
The housing supply will increase significantly in the coming 10 years. The steering committee believes the property market will not be affected too much because private developers will take up 40% of the new homes to be built. Vicky Kong, TVB News.
Well, as part of efforts to boost housing supply, the government has now decided to build public and subsidised units in the Tai Hom village site in Diamond Hill. Officials originally planned to build private homes and serviced apartments there. Stephanie Choi reports.
A housing think tank said some rural areas in the new territories, such as Yuen Long and Tuen Mun, are actually more urbanized than we think.
In what they call now village area is actually a very urbanized networks being built up, for example, roads and other community facilities.
Instead, the group called for the construction of medium-density residential housing units. It believes just 10% of the 900 hectares of rural land intended for development could provide housing for up to 300,000 people.
We think the government should have the political determination as well as the kind of techniques and to handle the issue, to discuss with all the stakeholders with a will to release the potential of those land as soon as possible.
Their appeal follows a move by the government to scrap plans to build hotels, serviced apartments and private housing in the Tai Hom village site in Diamond Hill. Officials have now unveiled plans to build more than 4,000 public and subsidized flats there. That is twice the number of units that was included in the planning department's original scheme. The department said it made the revisions according to public demand, but reactions were mixed as some voiced concerns about high-density living. Wong Tai Sin District Councillor Mandy Tam raised concerns about a possible wall effect after the department rejected suggestions for keeping the buildings to a maximum of 25 stories. The department is sticking to the 40-story cap. The Town Planning Board will examine the latest blueprint. Stephanie Choi, TVB News.
The head of the body that oversees China's major state-owned companies was fired today. Beijing says Jiang Jianmin is suspected of serious disciplinary violations. Jiang headed the State-Owned Assets Supervision and Administration Commission. Before that, he was chairman of China National Petroleum Corporation, which has been the target of a sweeping corruption investigation that netted 4 top executives in recent days. As a full member of the Communist Party's Central Committee, Jiang is the most senior official to fall since the country's change in leadership over the past year. President Xi Jinping, who's also the new party chief, has made fighting widespread graft a key campaign of his leadership. Today's announcement came after the party's anti-graft watchdog, the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection, announced on Sunday it was investigating Jiang. Premier Li Keqiang says territorial disputes in the South China Sea should not affect the broader interests of China and ASEAN relations. Speaking at the opening ceremony of the 10th China-ASEAN Expo in Nanning today, The Premier stressed the need for the two sides to resolve the disputes through dialogue. Li said China and the regional grouping have enjoyed a golden decade of cooperation, and over the next 10 years they could build a diamond decade. Earlier, Philippine President Benigno Aquino announced the cancellation of his trip to the Nanning Trade Fair. Philippine officials said the decision was made after Beijing demanded that Manila first withdraw a UN arbitration case over disputed islands in the South China Sea.
Turning overseas now, both the United States and Syria are stepping up the rhetoric over a possible American strike. And as the number of Syrian refugees now tops the 2 million mark, there are now growing concerns about the human cost of war. This is becoming a major humanitarian crisis. According to the United Nations, the civil war in Syria has now forced more than 2 million people out of the country, and more than 4 million others are displaced within its borders. That's made Syria the nation with the largest number of people torn from their homes. Still, the war drums continue to beat. US President Barack Obama won conditional support for military action in Syria from two Republican senators, John McCain and Lindsey Graham, after they met at the White House yesterday.
If the Congress were to reject a resolution like this, after the President of the United States has already committed to action, the consequences would be catastrophic in that the credibility of this country with friends and enemy and adversaries alike would be shredded, and there would be not only implications for this presidency but for future presidencies as well.
McCain and Graham said earlier Obama's plan was too weak to change the course of the fighting in favor of the opposition. In France, President François Hollande's government, which has voiced support for the American military campaign, made clear his country would not be acting alone. The French Prime Minister said Paris aims to build a coalition of countries to back a strike against President Bashar al-Assad's regime. Assad, in an interview with the French newspaper, hit back. He warned France to steer clear of policies hostile to his country, or else the state will be their enemy. And in Damascus, Syrians have been pitching tents as part of the Over Our Bodies campaign to organize human shields at potential targets in case of military action. Back at the refugee camp in Turkey, some of those forced to leave Syria appeared reluctant to talk about a possible military strike. No doubt ambivalent about the consequences of war back in their homeland.
And still to come in the news. 72 witnesses to be called in Rafael Hoi's trial. Rugby action at the National Games. And a dream come true for an endurance swimmer.
Back tonight with more local news. The corruption trial of former Chief Secretary for Administration Rafael Hoi and the joint chairman of Sun Hun Kai Properties, Thomas and Raymond Kwok, will open on May the 8th next year. The 5 defendants, among whom include another senior Sun Hun Kai executive and a former senior staffer at the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, were all summoned to a pre-trial hearing at the High Court today. They were arrested by the ICAC in July last year on 8 misconduct and bribery charges. Hoi alone faces all 8 charges which accuse him of accepting the rent-free use of 2 luxury apartments, taking unsecured loans, and not making these declarations while in public office. He is also accused of being favourably disposed to Sun Hun Kai while in office. The defendants have denied all charges. 72 witnesses will be called, and the trial is expected to last 70 days.
The Christian Zhengshan College, a drug rehabilitation school in a remote part of Lantau Island, is seeking help from legislators over an inoperable boat. The school's headmaster believes the Marine Department failed to do a thorough inspection of the vessel before it was bought with government funds. And now students and teachers have a hard time getting to the school campus. Rani Samtani has more details.
The only way for students and teachers to get to the Christian Zhengshan College is by boat, because there is no road leading to the school in Chimawan, Lantau. Earlier, the school bought a $900,000 boat using funds from the Security Bureau's Narcotics Division after the vessel was inspected and approved by the Marine Department. But it turned out that the boat soon became inoperable due to engine problems.
If they, we call it a big check, before the purchase was certified by the Marine Department to be okay, then how come it's only after 2 months that they discover is a ship of nonsense?
The school's headmaster believes the Marine Department didn't conduct a thorough inspection, and as a result, they've incurred a loss of over $1.5 million from buying the boat and for hiring a captain and crew members.
The response from the Marine Department, they say that is the owner's responsibility on the situation of the boat. So they believe they did nothing wrong and it was in good shape and it's our responsibility.
Experts recently examined the boat and found that the engine was damaged beyond use. The Marine Department claims the engine must have been switched, as the current engine is not the one they previously inspected. Chan and To hope a police investigation into the matter will resolve the issue. Students and teachers have been hiring fishing boats to commute to and from school. But last week, the Marine Department stopped them from taking these boats since they aren't licensed to carry passengers. Now the school says it's left with options it can't afford: costly vessels or costing students their rehabilitation. Rani Samtani, TVB News.
Now, police in Mexico City learned the hard way that horses get spooked by cars. The incident damaged 11 cars and left one person injured. The horses were being used to control demonstrators ahead of President Enrique Peña Nieto's State of the Union address. As the horses were being taken out of a trailer near Congress, they became frightened by the sound of car engines and bolted off. The horses began galloping down one of the busiest avenues of Mexico City, wrecking vehicles in their wild stampede. 8 of the horses suffered injuries and were later treated. The government has promised to pay for all the damage caused by the stampede. All right, Tony, over to you for sports.
That's right, we got some rugby to talk about and a bit of a disappointment for local lads today. Hong Kong's Rugby 7 squad came oh so desperately close to winning the city's first gold medal at the China National Games. In the end, though, the SAR couldn't hold on against a team which had beaten them earlier in the tournament. Having beaten Beijing in the semi-finals earlier today, a team considered one of the strongest sides in the Rugby Sevens tournament at the China National Games, Hong Kong were full of confidence going into the final against Shandong. And the quest for gold began perfectly when the SAR caught their opponents on the counter-attack to make it 5-0 after less than 3 minutes of play. 2 minutes later, Hong Kong were at it again, producing a flowing move which saw veteran skipper Rohan Varty score his and the team's second try. That was capped off with a successful conversion from Adam Ralston, making it 12-0 to Hong Kong at half-time. But Shandong came out with all guns blazing after the break. Within 2 minutes it was 12-7 after Shandong scored an early try. Hong Kong tried desperately to protect their lead, but a series of penalties against them, plus a yellow card which reduced the team to 6, tilted the advantage to Shandong. Hong Kong had to settle for silver on the back of a 14-12 loss. But coach Dai Rees felt bad luck and poor refereeing cost his side gold.
Very unlucky, really disappointed. We played well enough to win the game. To defend, then he just kept giving penalty after penalty. Certainly thought 2 or 3 of the penalties should have been to us and not against us. But the yellow card's a dangerous play, and it wasn't dangerous play. Again, I think the referee got carried away, so he made some poor decisions.
It ended in tears for Hong Kong's women as well today. Playing in the battle for bronze against Anhui, the SAR left empty-handed as they lost 15-7. On to tennis now, and Roger Federer's attempt to salvage his season ended in disaster as he crashed out of the US Open earlier today. The 17-time Grand Slam winner came unstuck against Tommy Robredo. The Spaniard sealed the match with a big serve to complete a straight sets win against the Swiss. Robredo will now face his compatriot Rafael Nadal, who lost a set for the first time at this year's US Open, but he recovered quickly against Philipp Kohlschreiber to book his place in the quarterfinals.
And finally for tonight, American swimmer Diana Nied earned the title yesterday of being the first person to swim from Cuba to Florida without a shark cage. She's 64 years old, and it was a dream come true after 35 years. Sonia Otero has more details.
The treacherous body of water known as the Florida Straits is the holy grail for marathon swimmers, and Diana Nyad wanted to conquer swimming it unassisted. So, 53 hours after setting off from Havana on Saturday, Nyad was able to checkmark that box off her bucket list. Braving dangerous currents, poisonous jellyfish, dehydration, and exhaustion, Nyad completed the 177-kilometer swim. She has now set the world record for the longest unassisted open ocean swim. This means she used no shark cage or bodysuit to protect her and no flippers to assist her. Hundreds of well-wishers greeted her, snapping up photos and cheering as she staggered ashore in the Florida Keys. Even with a sunburned face and swollen lips, Nyad uttered 3 important messages.
One is, we should never, ever give up. Okay. 2 is, you're never too old to chase your dreams. That's right. 3 is, it looks like a solitary sport, but it's a team.
This crew member said Nyad's first night was the hardest, but her burning spirit carried her through.
She came through that and was really strong. She had it physically, she had it emotionally.
Yes, setting this world record is incredible, but what makes Nyad remarkable is her perseverance. She first made a go of this same swim at age 28 in 1978. And over the past 35 years, she tried and failed 3 more attempts. One of Nyad's friends who accompanied her on all 5 swims said she always had faith Diana would realize her lifelong dream.
We've always known that Diana could do it. We've always known that. I knew that in 1978. All you have to do is know her to know that she could swim from Cuba to Florida if the waters were glassy, if the weather was right, if there were no beasts.
In the end, this 64-year-old senior faced those beasts and conquered every obstacle. She proved that when it comes to following your dreams, age and gender don't matter one bit. Sonia Artero, TVB News.
That's something
Amazing
to learn
stuff.
from.
Yep.
That's the news. Thanks for watching.
Good night.
Good evening. The weather was cloudy with showers and a few thunderstorms. And as tonight's situation chart shows, a trough of low pressure is bringing unsettled weather to the coast of Guangdong and the northern part of the South China Sea. Today's temperatures ranged from 25 to 28 degrees, and the relative humidity was between 82 to 98%. Winds were light to moderate southerlies. The current temperature is now 25.5 degrees Celsius, with the relative humidity standing at 94%. 5 millimeters of rainfall has been recorded since midnight. So Freddie, how's the weather tomorrow? It will be cloudy with occasional rain and thunderstorms tonight. Rain will be heavy at times tomorrow. Temperatures will range between 25 and 28 degrees. There will be a few rain patches on Thursday. Tomorrow's API is forecast at 15 to 85, and the pollution level will range from low to high. And the maximum UV intensity forecast for tomorrow will be about 3. And here's the latest global weather update. Cloudy in Shanghai and Xiamen. Showers in Rain in Guangzhou and Chengdu, showers in Macau. Rain in Beijing, sunny in Seoul, showers in Tokyo. Thunderstorms in Bangkok, rain in Ho Chi Minh City and Manila. Cloudy in Kuala Lumpur, thunderstorms in Singapore, showers in Jakarta. Bright in New Delhi, rain in Karachi, showers in Mumbai. Sunny in Cairo. Showers in Brisbane, sunny in Sydney and Melbourne. Cloudy in Toronto. Cloudy in Vancouver, bright in San Francisco and Los Angeles. Sunny in London, Paris and Zurich. And that's the weather. Have a lovely evening.